Welcome to P Passionate W World, R Radio N Network, LLC, a multimedia company. Ann Arbor, Michigan, Boston, Massachusetts, Liverpool, England, Melrose, Florida, Los Angeles, California, Fullerton, California, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois are one of the many broadcast homes of PWRN, a multimedia company. The world in your hands. And now, without further ado, let me present to you one of our many hosts and their programs.
Well, good evening, one and all. Sorry for a little bit of a late start tonight. That's what happens when you have storms around you. At any rate, I've been hearing online from so many people whose animals have passed away, and it seemed like it would be a very good opportunity to share this particular story from one of my books here that would kind of help them feel better about the whole reincarnation process. And this one's called Apoloosa, The Return, and just how strange it can be sometimes and perfect. I realized that actually tonight was the year anniversary of losing my sweet cat Star, and so that's it's good for me too. So I will be sharing this with you. Apoloosa, The Return, and so many lessons, and there were. This story is about the second coming, really, of Apoloosa, Apple or Lulu. And Happy apparently has something to say about it, too. And it's a very extraordinary story. And I feel like it's one that really shared a lot of proof about the evidence of reincarnation. That's why I thought I would share it. After 1-year-old Tonka died so suddenly and mysteriously, it became clear that I needed to find another puppy for Bear to love, as he was literally dying of heartbreak. When he was unhappy, he sort of withered like a flower. And I know that my big-hearted boy needed to have a pal again. Just needed that. So that began seeking for the puppy. And that's what it took. It was challenging, but I had to find a new baby. And not just any pal either. I had to help Tonka, as I had promised him to find his way back through the veil to Moonhaven and his beloved Bear. As time wore on, Bear's spirit flagged, and his life force got weaker. The light in his soulful eyes was dim, and I knew that I had to find his new Tonka pronto. His instructions, and I say these were Tonka's instructions after he passed, had to be to find the right dog, and then he would get in. I really didn't have any idea how that was to happen, this getting in, but I searched high and low for the puppy. Periodically, I would confer with my mentor, Kay, to see if I had found the right one, until one Saturday morning, something told me to buy the local paper. That's what I had to do, to buy the local paper and look at the ads for pets. I've been doing this daily for a while with no results. There, in black and white, was an ad for new puppies, a whole litter of Catahoula Leopard Hound German Shepherd mixes. They were in the next town over, too. I had a good feeling about this, and I was not mistaken. Before even arriving, I felt like our pup would be here, and so he was. I had never met a Catahoula before, but they're beautiful, with an unusual blue merle-type coat, which is sort of mottled black, brown, and gray on white. And, of course, this boy was also half German Shepherd, so he had that tawny color, too. By the looks of his large paws, you could see that his was little when he was going to be huge, like his 125-pound daddy. I took one look at his eyes and knew that he was our puppy. He had one brown and one blue eye, as some rare Catahoulas do. I wanted to check his energy with a pendulum, but didn't want to scare the redneck owner and make him think that I was a crazy person or worse. So I discreetly removed the crystal pendant from my neck and let it swing over the puppy. Yes, this was Tonka's new body and Bear's new puppy, or so I thought. My then partner Tara was always more skeptical about these things than I was, and she really wondered if I had lost it, getting a fourth dog again. But there was no denying that Bear was dying of heartbreak, and I had to help him. We were told that our new boy was the pick of the litter as we popped him into the car. I had made sure that we were the first people there so that we would have our choice, and it worked. When we walked into our home with the new pup, I expected Bear to come bounding over in ecstasy. But that did not happen. In fact, he was very half-hearted about the whole thing. I looked at him and I said, Bear, this one was for you. I already have 3 dogs. Let's see some enthusiasm here. Now I was getting worried. Had I picked the wrong dog? Had I picked the pup that was Tonka supposed to get in? I called Kay, and she reassured me that I had indeed found the right dog and to be patient. I went about my business of helping the new family member feel at home. We decided to call him Apoloosa because of his unusual mottled coat and because he would be as big as a horse. Several days had gone by, and still no sign of recognition from Bear. On day number 9, little Apoloosa suddenly became deathly ill with all the horrible symptoms that Tonka had. I was devastated, having lost both Pearl and Tonka only months earlier. I took Apple to the vet and discovered that he had parvo, which is often deadly in pups. I called his birth home, and none of the other puppies had been ill. The vet was kind enough to give us some IV fluids to take home so that we could nurse him and hope for the best. When we got home, I remembered the African healing ritual that we had begun for Tonka but couldn't complete. I had been told to make a cleansing cloth sacred to Oya, Orisha, goddess of the graveyard, by stringing together strips of 9 different colored fabrics. I still had it in a bag. It had been too late for Tonka, but just maybe I could save Apoloosa. I took the rainbow cloth and cleaned his whole little body with it. Then I put it in the paper bag and went to the graveyard with 9 pennies. I had been taught this ritual by my dear friend Omi Aladora Ajamu, who is a Yoruba priest of Yemanja and quite a gifted healer and medium herself. I don't particularly make a habit of walking into graveyards, but that night I did as I was told and ran 9 pennies through my auric field and threw them in ahead of me. When I entered the place, I carried the paper bag filled with the used multicolored cleansing cloth and deposited it by the nearest tree and backed out quickly, tossing in another 9 pennies before anyone could see what I was doing. That process was a little unnerving, but I felt deep satisfaction knowing that I had tried every method, from allopathic, vet care, to holistic, to African magic, to heal my new puppy. Sometimes it just takes everything you've got, and that's just what it took for this little one. The next morning, he was remarkably better, and we took him to the vet again for a checkup and to see if we needed more bags of IV fluids for him. The vet was shocked to see this healthy puppy in front of him, as he thought we would probably lose him that night. "He's like a new dog," the vet said in amazement, and he was exactly right. Tonka had gotten in, just as he had promised, and Apoloosa was now, in fact, a new dog. One spirit left, and another came in. Had I not experienced it with my own eyes, and I even had confirmation from the vet, I wouldn't have believed it either. The final and most amazing proof occurred the next day when I saw Apoloosa take Bear's collar in his puppy mouth and start to pull him around the floor, just as Tonka always did. Tara and I looked at each other through tear-filled eyes and shouted in unison, "He's back!" Little Apple and Bear began to forge their deep and enduring bond. Apple was just the cutest little puppy you've ever seen, and those two-toned eyes were something else. He was a very frisky pup and was into everything. He was not easy like Tonka, and Bear felt most of his training. He left most of his training to me this time. At any hour of the day or night, you could hear me shouting, "Apple, no!" It became so constant that we decided that I had to do it differently, or he would start thinking his name was No. So, at any rate, let's take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Robertson, host of TV Confidential. Thank you so much for listening to our program on PWRN, Passionate World Radio Network. If you like TV Confidential or any of the other programs you hear every week on PWRN, please consider supporting this station by becoming a patron of Passionate World Radio Network through Patreon. It is easy to do. It won't cost you more than a few dollars per month. And best of all, you will help PWRN continue to educate, enlighten, and entertain our global audience of 10 million strong and growing. For more information, go to patreon.com/PWRN. That's Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/PWRN. And thank you again for listening.
Okay, Flash Silvermoon, right back with you. On the rare occasion that he was a good boy, I bathed him in praise and effusively told him what a good boy he was. His was not the easiest puppyhood, but for the most part, these problems were just big puppy pranks of the wild, spirited kind. Basically, he was Bear's dog, and he lived his first 7 years that way. This pack of hounds were all great watchdogs, and I never had to worry about safety, as they made their presence abundantly known. Bear and Apple were the dearest of friends, and never ever fought over anything except for one strange day. The boys, as I often called them, were way out on the far edge of the fence line and seemed to be fixated on something. I called them in as usual, but they were not budging. I decided that I had better go check out what was so fascinating. When I approached, I could see that they were hovering around this weird object I had recognized as a sort of a voodoo charm. I had seen such things in botanicas in New York, and I knew that finding one dressed on our property could not mean anything good. Excuse me. sneezing to that. The dogs began snarling at each other in a very threatening way. I tried to get them to calm down as I picked up the noxious object and hurled it back over the fence where it must have come from. Sometimes one needs to consult another mystic who is out of your personal posse so that you can be objective and get the real story about such an event. I quickly consulted such a woman who explained that this low-life neighbor in the trailer behind my home had heard that we were doing black magic, which of course we weren't, and had decided to launch a preemptive strike at us to protect themselves and sent some very nasty energy our way. You could see simply by observing the snarling energy of my usually loving dogs that nothing good had been placed in this object before it had been hidden on my side of the fence. To take care of this problem, I got together with Tara and another friend and did an amazing series of rituals to awaken the ancestral energies that protect Moonhaven. We asked that they come and protect us, especially our animals, which had become so vulnerable in this dark energy launched in our direction. The images and energies that arrived were nothing short of amazing, as I witnessed Indians on horseback and Africans coming in their native attire to help clear the land of the noxious energies that had been sent to harm us. I'll never forget that night as long as I live, as some of the nastiest energies I'd ever seen felt were just routed from Moonhaven and sent back to their origin for good measure. I placed a large mirror against a tree and angled it towards the trailer, affirming that all things thrown in my direction would return to its source, that the mirror would simply mirror it back, and we would be done with this problem for good. My guides told me that they would be gone by May, and so it was, and Moonhaven and my dogs were loving and peaceful once more. Animals pick up everything and are our first line of defense. It doesn't have to be something as dire as this situation. It could simply be a troubled relationship in your household that wears away at the nerves of your dog or cat, and in time can literally make them ill or act out. They can and will absorb the excess emotional baggage that is floating around. So we need to protect them by cleaning up our own messes. And this is really important right now. I'm glad I've chosen this piece, as there's so much funk in the air. You have no idea how many animal behavior problems I have helped undo by addressing the family, the people problems, and treating everyone with the right flower essence. It really works. Often, sudden behavioral problems they're the animal's only way to tell you that they need help. The Green Hope Farms Outburst Flower Essence combination from their animal essence is really good choice when your animal's electrical system is being taxed or overamped by discord in the home, even if that discord is brought into the home from the workplace. Speaking of work, all animals like to have a job, and sometimes that job is barely discernible, but not with Apple. Apple was a Capricorn, and actually was a mega Capricorn, having many planets in that sign in his astrological chart. If you know any Cappies, you know that they are very dutiful and feel most comfortable on the job. Apple was no exception, being half German Shepherd, half Catahoula Leopard Hound, i.e., a leopard shepherd He came by his herding instinct from both sides of his gene pool. Anytime people or other animals were around, you could see Apple pop up to take a look, count the number of beings in his care, and then move on. A while later, he would do the same thing, making sure that he knew that the same number of beings were still in his care, in his flock. I swear to heaven, he got to know when an hour was up with my readings. And so he would come over into my office, poke his head in, and just take stock and remind me that, okay, an hour is up. If he wasn't sleeping there already. Apple was an incredible watchdog and could actually appear quite formidable with his deep bark and large frame. In his later years, his temperament was less stable. And I had to be more careful with him around others. He battled skin allergies, arthritis for the last couple of years of his life, and I learned much about healing these problems from being with him. Because he was old and failing for about a year, some thought I should have let him go sooner, but I knew his heart, which was so strong and determined to do his job and love his family. I could see the joy that he still took every day on patrol. Even when he became deaf, he would do preemptive barking, telling all that Apple was here to take care of business. And he loved doing it too. I grieve the loss of my dear friend and protector. I can still hear him at times, making his rounds. And given who he was, he probably is still checking up on us, his family and flock, at Moonhaven. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back with the end of the story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Robertson, host of TV Confidential. Thank you so much for listening to our program on PWRN, Passionate World Radio Network. If you like TV Confidential or any of the other programs you hear every week on PWRN, please consider supporting this station by becoming a patron of Passionate World Radio Network through Patreon. It is easy to do. It won't cost you more than a few dollars per month. And best of all, you will help PWRN continue to educate, enlighten, and entertain our global audience of 10 million strong and growing. For more information, go to patreon.com/PWRN. That's Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/PWRN. And thank you again for listening.
Okay. Silvermoon here for What the Animals Tell Me, the last part of our story. Apple joined the bear on the other side. It's never easy to lose a good friend and family member, and even harder to make the choice to help them leave the earth plane. However, I felt like this was the last and only gift that I could give him. He was ready, and there could not be any quality of life for him here. I had to help my dear devoted dog, Apoloosa, Apple, rejoin his beloved bear, also known as Spirit, both shown in the picture that I advertised this event with. He was the last of a group of 4 of my dogs. During the last few days of his life, he appeared to have had a small stroke, and his hind legs gave out. I knew that I could not pull him off the edge with homeopathy this time, and that he was ready to journey on beyond the boundaries of his lifelong home here at Moonhaven. My youngest cat, Star, had to be rushed to the hospital the day before Apple departed for life-saving surgery. That was Star that had the life-saving surgery. I was terrified that I could lose them both in one weekend. Star was Apple's true buddy, in the animal family, becoming his ears after he could no longer hear. This little white cat would cry at the door when Apple was ready to come in to alert me. When I started letting Star out for a bit, Apple would go outside to look for him if he thought that his little friend was gone too long. Star hardly got to say goodbye to his dear friend as he came home from the hospital with the vet who assisted Apple's passage. However, I think part of Star's physical difficulties also had to do with letting go of his brother. I'm sure that they have made their peace. All of us miss them both a lot. I know that he was greeted on the other side by his brother Spirit, Bear, and Astarte, Tara, and Cherie, to name just a few of his and my other family members who've gone before. Many losses at that time. I treated our family for grief, and we're moving ahead without our big, strong, devoted dog, Apple. And just as he returned to us after he was Tonka, he will return again when his time comes. We'll never forget him, our lifetime companion, and love never dies. So I thought that would be a very interesting story to share with all of you tonight, with so many comings and goings of animals and people, and also with some very dark energies this month for us having to manage. So lots of little thoughts to share with yourself, with your animals. And remember, they can and do return. My name is Flash Silvermoon. If you want to reach me, you can find me at flashsilvermoon.com. And I am very good at speaking with these animals. Once they've passed or once they're here, either way, should you need that type of help. You can find me on Facebook, too, probably easiest under Friends Who Like Flash Silvermoon. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll be back with you next week. Everybody, take care.
Thank you for listening to Passionate World Radio Network, a multimedia company. You can listen to this program all over again at PassionateWorldRadioNetwork.com, Facebook.com/PWRN, Twitter.com/PWRN, GooglePlus.com/PWRN. Distinguish yourself from the ordinary. And remember, please keep listening.